Hello listeners, this is Kat, and welcome back to Put Your Hands Up Podfics. This will be the continuation of See You in the Morning. This is Part 3, Chapter 3, entitled Worried Dadzawa Mode Activated, as Mike and Nem would say. Izuku doesn't really know what to do. Eraserhead wanted to know where he's been, but how do you explain to a quirked adult that you were almost murdered by a group of guys in an alleyway simply because you don't have some magical ability? That while he did survive, the majority of his skin had become an angry black and blue canvas, only broken up by red flowing cuts that soon became angry-looking scabs for weeks on end. You don't. You just don't, that's the answer. It's been the answer ever since Izuku turned 4 and left the Quirk doctor's office with his hand clutched too tightly in Inko's. Thankfully, deflecting and lying to the quirked population is a skill Izuku is adept at. Like all Quirkless, he even attended a mini-seminar at the Papillion Theater, which is another Quirkless safe space not too far from Aldera Middle School that was focused on teaching the younger generation of the Quirkless community how to lie to survive. So, with an innocent, chipper head tilt that would make Sasha laugh his ass off, Izuku deflects. I haven't been anywhere, Aizawa-sensei. I mean, I've been a bit busy with preparing for UA entrance exams, but that's about it. His teacher looks like he wants to cry, which is an interesting reaction to be honest, also interesting to witness on his usually apathetic-looking neighbor. That's the other thing that's odd. Izuku's doing majority of the talking, the exact opposite from their nightly signed conversations. Kid. Midori. Actually, it's Midori Izuku. All he receives is an exasperated look from Eraserhead. I just thought you should know, since you're my teacher, and now that I've confirmed you're not some creepy pedo who drinks coffee with teenagers at midnight for a year. Oop. Fuwashi and Sasha are rubbing off on Izuku a bit too much, he thinks, as he feels his face heat up a bit. Maybe he should spend more time with Hihara and Hinto after school today. They're two of the sweetest people Izuku knows, though Hinto has the whole scheming older sister vibe going for her, so maybe just Hihara. Midoriya, then. That's not the point. I get that UA entrance exams are really big, but you couldn't have been busy with them for over 3 weeks. The two neighbors just look at each other in silence, green eyes peering cautiously into black ones before averting to look at his red shoes, resisting the urge to reach for a star, since it's hidden under his school uniform right now. Fine. I'm not going to pressure you, kid. I just wanted to make sure you were okay. Now run along. I'll give you a 5-minute start to catch up with the rest of your class. Seeing the gift for what it was, Izuku wastes no time in grabbing his backpack and making a break for a gym gamma, almost forgetting to grab his gym uniform in his rush. Izuku wonders if this is cosmic karma for lying to Eraserhead because of course his teacher is having 1A do a quirk apprehension test because the universe hates him. Though it kinda hurts to learn that his midnight coffee buddy would care so much about quirks. Izuku was kinda hoping maybe this teacher wouldn't be like every other teacher he'd ever had. Maybe Katon was right. No, stupid brain, fuck off. He's not doing that to his community, to his friends and family in the community. Katon can fuck off with his stupid advice. And Aizawa-sensei can also fuck off with his biased, quirkist quirk apprehension test. Izuku doesn't want to acknowledge the part of him that feels slightly betrayed at this new side of his neighbor. Carefully keeping his expression neutral, he listens to Aizawa-sensei threaten to expel the person who comes in last. Izuku just wants to go to the cafe and be surrounded by people who don't even mention quirks. Bakugo. You scored the most points on the entrance exam, so you go first. Throw the ball as far as you can using your quirk. The class watches as the angry blonde scoffs before grabbing the ball and walking to the throwing circle. Boom. Die. Izuku takes great pleasure in the way that the class takes a couple of steps back from Katon and whispers break out asking what his problem was. At least Katon wasn't being worshipped like a god, like everyone did at Aldera. Maybe this time not everyone will take his side. A tall wall of a teenager wearing glasses looks about 1 second from having an aneurysm or passing out at Katon's display. A lot of the assessments are straightforward, being the same as the gym assessments they've been doing since elementary, especially for Izuku since the only real difference is the free use of quirks and he doesn't have one. But nonetheless, Izuku gives each test his all. He cannot be last. He has things to prove. He has a community to represent. He won't let one more quirkus assessment and potentially teacher get in the way of that. He hasn't survived this long just to fail. As Izuku completes each test, he makes sure to keep track of his standing for each of them against the rest of the class. He's not doing too bad, keeping middle of the pack for most of them. Lastly is the ball throw. Taking a deep, steadying breath, Izuku walks forward to claim the ball from Aizawa-sensei and stand in the circle. How does he want to do this? He'll throw and hope for the best. Not like standing here for longer will magically give him a better score. Besides, no matter what, he should do fine based on his standing in every other test, and he knows he won't get anywhere near Uraraka's infinity score for the ball throw. At least Kachan won't be first. 71.4 meters. Honestly, he's not even mad. That's a damn good score compared to his middle school gym test. All right, class, your overall scores will be posted in a second. Everyone shifts with nerves as they frantically search for their name on the list. 14th place. That's actually pretty fucking good if you ask Izuku. Actually, he's surprised that the score wasn't tampered with. That's why he was making sure to keep track of his standing in each individual test. It's happened enough times in the past, not that knowing the score was tampered with would change anything, officially, but it helped Izuku to know that he wasn't actually a weak, underdeveloped dog. Maybe UA would be slightly better than his past schools after all. Oh, and no one's being expelled. Now run off, get changed, and head home. With that, Aizawa-sensei walks away from the crowd of teenagers, probably to get coffee if Izuku knows anything about his neighbor. Izuku huffs, making his way back to the boys' locker room to change in the bathroom stall. No reason to change out in the open and get battered with questions about his still healing wounds and scars from the past. He is on his way out when the tall wall of a classmate who looked scandalized by Kachan's language before steps in his way. Midoriya, I just ask, why is it that you didn't use your quirk on any of the assessments? UA students should never get less than their all. I worry that if you do not try more in the future that you will be expelled. Wow, this guy is something. He probably means well, but he's also right in Izuku's face and keeps chopping his arms. It's not exactly nice to a kid who's been beaten by everyone since he was little, but you do you, he guesses. Hello? Ida Tenya, from Somei Private Academy. It's nice to meet you, though back to what's important. You need to take this more seriously, Midoriya. Ida, I don't have a quirk, so I won't be using a quirk for any of the assessments today, nor in the future. Not that it's really your business. The tall teen freezes, finally stopping with the arms before bending almost a full 90 degrees into a bow and picking the movement back up. Kami's elbows are going to give out eventually from constant chopping. It looks just exhausting. I'm so sorry, Midoriya. Excuse my assumptions and previous words. You've done great for being quirkless today. Well, isn't that a backhanded compliment if Izuku's ever heard one? Like, seriously, he can't decide if the teen is just really bad at communicating or if he's just a really polite, quirkist asshole. Maybe a mixture of the two. Either way, Izuku wants to just finish getting changed and head home. He has work in a couple of hours, which if he leaves now gives him enough time to do a quick workout as well before he goes. It's fine, Ida, but I've got to go. See you tomorrow in class. Without letting the other boy get any more words in, Izuku makes his not-so-daring escape. Hopefully Kachan is still distracted by the blonde and the redhead from earlier. With that, Izuku leaves the walls of UA, and his first day of class in the hero course is over. He can't wait to tell the ones at the cafe all about it, even if some parts weren't so great. Maybe they could help him come up with covers for when Izuku won't be able to attend classes due to community activities. He's been brainstorming ideas, but all of them require outside help, which isn't so hard to find in the community. We're all there to help each other. Hinto is already listed as Izuku's emergency contact, and there's also some fake documents which the community's resident forger had made for him after getting accepted, which claim one say Hinto is his aunt, who he lives with since his family is apparently from far away. So maybe she can just claim that he's needed at home during those absences. Shota doesn't know what to do. His little green neighbor is a lot more slippery than Shota first thought he would be. He literally lied to his face, and was amazing at it. It was almost concerningly good lying when he thinks about it. If Shota hadn't been working with Tsukauchi Namasa for the majority of his hero career and seen every type of liar out there, he probably wouldn't have even noticed. Then, during the entire Quirk apprehension test, the kid wouldn't even look at Shota. Though he did notice the kid would sneak glances once in a while, his face twisted in some sort of hidden displeasure or maybe confusion. Shota knows he needs social communication practice, but he never thought it would bite him in the ass like this. Maybe the kid's file would hold some answers. Decision made, Shota leaves his class to change back into their normal school uniforms and head home by themselves, making his trek to his office space by the teacher's lounge instead. Nezu always sends homeroom teachers their student files before the school year starts, but Shota's never seen the benefit of reading things about his students before he even meets them, so he never reads them. But he'll make an exception this once. He knows the kid either way, so it's not like what's written will mess up his image of the kid much. Swiftly entering his office space, he rifles through the other papers on his desk before finding one Midoriya Izuku's file. Grabbing it and making his way to the teacher's lounge so he can at least have some coffee to soothe his oncoming headache. Sho, you still have a class this year? Last year was scary. You just came in and declared that you had no class this year. Shota rolls his eyes at his husband and co-worker's antics. Vlad just doesn't understand how much trouble UA's Class 1A always is. He's honestly lucky that Nezu has him teach 1B instead. He probably gets a lot more free time than Shota. They're fine. Show at least a bit of promise, though there are some I need to keep an eye on. Because even though he was worried about his neighbor, he was still a teacher and had a whole group of kids to watch over. Mineta, for one, is troublesome and will need to be closely monitored if previous school records are anything to go by. They'll have plenty of other opportunities to be expelled in the coming week. He finishes watching as his coworkers deflate at his smile when he thinks about emptying out a couple of spaces in his class. At UA, all expulsions are put through immediately during the first week of classes. After the first week, all of them must be carefully reviewed and are more likely to be denied. Shota loves the first week. Wow, did you hear that, Sashi? Shota said they're fine. They must have impressed him in order to get such praise. So what did they do? Kami, his friends have too much energy, though seeing Namuri, Shota is reminded. Nothing, though you owe me dinner. Everyone goes quiet, just looking at Shota like he grew a second head suddenly. Why do I owe you dinner, Shota? I don't remember you winning any bets recently, though I've been eating like a queen, thank you very much. The kid's voice is exactly what I bet, so pay up. The kid? Her brows tick downward in slight confusion before realization takes over her expression. You met your kid? And there goes Vlad's drink, all over his papers. He should really stop drinking things in the staff lounge. You met your little listener show. That's great. And you finally want to bet with Namuri. I thought Aizawa's kid existing was a joke. Everyone ignores Vlad. I've won bets with Nem before, Zashi. But yeah, I met the kid. He's in my class, actually. Imagine my surprise this morning. You mean when you were avoiding Nezu's orientation speech? Vlad grumbles, still being ignored by the trio. I'm sensing a butt here. The kid just acted odd. You know how he disappeared in the last 3 or so weeks? His two friends nod. How could they not? They'd all been so worried about the kid's disappearance when Shota told them about it. Sometimes keeping Shota company, as he camped out in his and Zashi's kitchen for hours before midnight and taking over for him when he had to leave for his patrol. He claimed it was because he was busy getting ready for UA, but he was lying. With a huff, Shota settles in on the couch, with his legs across Zashi's lap and his feet in Nem's, who's giving him a skeptical look. You sure he wasn't just telling the truth? UA is a big deal. Maybe he really was super busy. At that, Shota glares at his friend. She doesn't back down, though, gaining a scheming look in her eyes instead. Shouldn't you be happy your kid was sleeping instead of drinking coffee with you in the middle of the night? Just because you don't need sleep to live doesn't mean Midori doesn't. And he is. He is. Midori shouldn't have been up every single night at midnight drinking coffee in his kitchen. It was concerning behavior, especially for a 14 to 15-year-old, but after the first couple of months, Shota just assumed the kid had really bad insomnia or something. I am glad if he was getting sleep, Nem. But he was also lying. He was really good at it too, which is a whole different problem. Shota pinches the bridge of his nose, trying to stave off his headache. A warm hand grabs his other hand, which currently was just sitting in his lap, and intertwines their fingers, offering support. If you say the little listener was lying, we believe you, Sho, but maybe he just didn't want to talk to his teacher about whatever he was getting up to. He is a teenager, after all. Yeah, maybe he was just overreacting. Just because Shota's childhood and teenage years were less than great doesn't mean that every kid that acts even vaguely like him is having the same experience. Nodding at his husband, he gives a squeeze before taking his hand back to page through Midori's. Midoriya, he mentally corrects, as he needs to get in the habit even if his sign name will be staying green. His file. Something immediately stands out. He's quirkless. That explains his participation in the quirk apprehension test at least, though it makes worry pull in Shota's gut. Unlike many other people in their superhuman society, he has to deal with cases of quirkless murder, suicide, and hate crimes often. Not that they're more common than some of the other crimes he stops on patrols, but for such a small community, he sees a lot of attacks and death in their percent of Japan's population each year. He knows some of the discrimination they face, the rates of abandonment, abuse, murder, sexual assault. It's not pretty in any form, and the kid is potentially included in those statistics. Maybe he should offer Midoriya his number for emergencies. Maybe. Checking over the rest of the kid's file, he notes that there are 3 emergency contacts listed, 2 with the same last name, Say, and 1 with the last name Volkov, which is odd, not overly concerning. It would be more alarming if the kid had no emergency contacts, though Shota makes a note to call each of the numbers later, just in case. Kami, maybe he should look through the rest of the class's files and make sure that everything looks okay. Should be fine now that he's met his students in person already, right? Izuku has just gotten done reciting his day at UA for the 100th time to a group of younger kids at the cafe. They're not siblings if Izuku is remembering correctly, but they are related in some way. The three of them cheer at Izuku's story, screaming and running around him as some of the adults and teens watch on with fondness. Especially when the three younger ones start talking about how they want to become heroes like Izuku and will go to UA as well. This is why he always walks down the stairs instead of taking the fast way down off tall buildings. For them. For their innocent joy. Patting each of them on the head, Izuku makes his way to the staff area of the cafe, deciding it's time to get to work. His throat is even a bit sore from talking so much during the last hour or so. You're doing good. Do you think so? I'm really trying. There's Hinto, acting like a big sister again. She pulls him into a tight hug, making Izuku squawk in protest after a couple of seconds, as it only gets tighter. But it's also nice. He doesn't get many hugs, and Hinto gives great hugs in Izuku's limited experience. You're doing great, Izuku. I'm sure you'll be fine, she encourages after finally letting him go to breathe. She's right, you know. You'll do fine, Squirt. Sasha, you're not supposed to be back here, and you know it. Now out! Out! And with that, Hinto is off to shoo the man back out of the staff area and to his booth area in the dining space of the cafe. Izuku feels warm inside. It's a nice feeling. Suddenly, Hinto pauses in her herding and pulls out her phone, glancing at Izuku a second later, nodding a couple times as she speaks, and then putting her phone away and saying something to Sasha before making her way back to where Izuku's watching. That was your homeroom teacher. He was apparently just calling to confirm your emergency contacts. I already warned Sasha to be ready for a call. Did something happen today to cause him to be checking these things? She looks concerned, which is fair, since for the Quirkless most attention is bad attention and it's better to stay unnoticed. Not really. Maybe he was going through my files, or maybe it's routine at UA. She doesn't look so sure, but nodding, she wipes invisible dust off her apron and tells Izuku to get to work, which he happily does. He loves the quirky cafe. Getting off the phone with the last emergency contact on Midori's, damn it, Midori's, how hard is it to add 2 more letters, brain? List, Shota does not feel satisfied. Everything seems correct, perfectly fine. He shouldn't be hoping for lies, or a bad situation for a student, but it's highly rare for a quirkless teen to be in a safe situation in their society. He'll leave it be for tonight. He has some last touches to make to his class plans before he and Zashi plan to watch some reruns of old movies. Hopefully he'll see the kid tonight in his kitchen for coffee. All right, listeners, this concludes Chapter 3 of See You in the Morning. Chapter 4 will be next. I hope you all are still enjoying this fic. Let me know your thoughts and reactions, and as always, thank you so much for listening.